You so much, Representative Grijalva, for coming today to be one of our two speakers at our meeting this month. Um, we would like to use this format for 30 minutes for your speaking time. First, if you could spend the first 5 or 10 minutes introducing yourself and what you would like to do and what you would like us to know, and then we'll move to the questions that I sent in advance. I'll read the question and then there can be some discussion. And then if we have time left over, and sometimes we do have time left over from our speakers, there may be questions in the chat and we would like to tee up some questions that you might want to answer.
Oh, that sounds good.
So we'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Adelita Grijalva. I'm a native Tucsonan. I'm currently representing Arizona CD7 and have been there for 8 months. My dad preceded me and served this community for 22 years as a member of Congress and 50 years total as an elected official. Very proud to be Raul Grijalva's daughter and very proud to continue the work that he started in a progressive movement that really arguably did not exist the way it is now before he got to Congress. And so now we are the progressive caucus that he started with Keith Ellison has over 100 members and growing every day. So I'm very excited about that. And I am on right now natural resources and education and workforce. Those are the two committees that I'm on. And the issues that we are facing are really serious. We are in a crossroads, I believe, in this country with, what direction are we going to go in? And my hope, and we're working very hard to change the majority and gain the House and hopefully the Senate, because we need to have a working families agenda that's going to prioritize people over profits and billionaires and corporations. And I see it every day when I look at the policies that are getting passed in each committee, this obsession that they have with othering people. I mean, I'm on education and workforce, and we have had every single hearing that we've had, except for one, someone brought up trans children, like totally unconnected to anything that we're talking about. Mining has been being pushed really hard in natural resources, and also a complete disregard for tribal sovereignty. So every day that I am in DC, I'm fighting for policies for Southern Arizona. Um, I was, I've been really um, concerned and upset with some of the direction that is coming from leadership, the GOP leadership. And I'll give you an example. We had projects that I get $15 million a year to spread across Southern Arizona in my district to be able to give money for projects. And I was prioritizing shovel ready projects because, we want to make sure we spend this money before it gets swept or anything else. So I was really working hard for that. And my very first project, the one that was like my number one choice, was the library in Bisbee. It is a regional library. It is a resource to the community. They hold events and offer things to that community all the time. And my mom is a librarian. My husband's a librarian. My sister's a librarian. Libraries, I know how critical they are to a lot of communities to keep access to information. And the agriculture committee removed that project because in its history in 2019 and in 2023, the library held drag story times, two of them, and they pulled the project. And that was infrastructure money. That was for a roof and to improve technology for a regional library. And so that's just an example. They they pulled off a project. There were only two other projects of all of the members of Congress that were pulled off, and that's the reason they pulled that one off. And um, it just speaks volumes. Even just this last weekend, when we're looking at what happened with what should have been an amazing celebration of our birthday, 250 years. It is likely the last one I will ever see in my lifetime. I was 4 years old when the other one came around. My kids are going to be, 69, 67, and 65 when we have our 300th birthday. And it just was a partisan mess. It was hijacked by Trump. And I am looking forward to having an opportunity to be in the majority so we can actually dive deep into the corruption. Because where did the money go that was allocated for America 250? It was bypassed into Freedom 250. And I mean, there's no indication as to where that money went. So there's just so many examples. And what we need to do as a party is work together to push an agenda that works for people, and we have to do it quickly. We can't sit around and try to caucus, and this is the time. The time is now for us to be doing that because what we have seen from this party is they had a plan and they executed it quickly. And it has caused devastation throughout the nation. And some of the worst of it isn't even implemented or starting until after November. So we're going to see firsthand how many people are kicked off of Medicare and Medicaid and SNAP benefits and how it's impacting our Social Security. And so those are things that are a priority to protect. But also, as someone who served 20 years on the Tucson Unified School District Governing Board, my parents are proud products of public school, as am I, as are my kids. What they are doing to public education, the Department of Public Education is devastating. And so we have to take a term from our president, our former president, Biden. We have to build it back better. It was too easy to dismantle. The foundation needs to be stronger. And so I'm very excited about what we have ahead. And I'm also hopeful because, in the time that my dad was in Congress, they had this trifecta 3 times where you had the House, the Senate, and the White House. And we got stuck on a lot of different we were distracted and couldn't unite on some of the basics. And I feel like we have experience and work together. And our caucus has stuck together when it came, the vast majority of us, when it came to healthcare and protecting Affordable Care Act and also on immigration, which I don't think would have happened even 5 years ago. So those are the issues that are huge in this district: immigration, protecting people's rights, LGBTQ, AI plus community, our immigrant community, our women, the Voting Rights Act. I mean, there's just so much work to do. And I am so looking forward to making sure that Southern Arizona has a voice when we're going through all of this. So with that, I will pause because I do think that the best exchanges are questions and stuff. So we'll
Well,
get to
thank you for that. And you've anticipated question number one.
it.
And so I'll ask the question, I'll state it for everybody on the call. In the case of Democrats regaining the House majority after the midterm elections, there will be enormous pressure for passing legislation on many issues.
Yes.
What would be your legislative priorities for pushing leadership and accomplishing results? And then we just teed up examples: healthcare, Social
Yeah.
Security, taxation, detention centers, data centers, environment. The list could go on, but
All of it.
how would you respond to
Yeah.
actually how would you handle the pressure and work with leadership to accomplish the results?
Well, I'm really proud of the fact that the Progressive Caucus right now is working on our agenda. 10 priority areas that cover things from affordable health care, including strengthening Affordable Care Act, defending Medicaid and Medicare, lowering prescription drug costs, restoring reproductive freedom. No family should have to choose between seeing a doctor and filling a prescription or paying rent. I also think we have to work urgently. This is not something that we can sit around and sort of like, well, let's, do a survey. The time to do that is right now. And I would want to let you know that we are doing that. And the party itself is going around to every caucus. So I am a part of the Women's Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, um, the LGBT, the Equality PAC. I mean, we have a lot of different PACs and caucuses all over. And so our leadership from our party has gone to every one of those meetings and asked, what do you want us to focus on? So know that we are doing that. And one of the things that I will always do is fight to protect Social Security and Medicare and other earned benefits from privatization or cuts. Working families and working people have paid into these programs their entire lives, and they deserve the dignity and security that they were promised. And we must make the tax code fairer. That means ensuring that billionaires and large corporations pay their fair share, ending giveaways that reward offshoring and corporate profiteering, investing those resources in public schools, affordable housing, infrastructure, childcare, and clean energy jobs is a priority. What we need to know is that we have a bipartisan housing bill that is being held hostage because Trump and the GOP see the writing on the wall. They're looking at these elections where, it's a Trump +7, a Trump +12, and our candidates are fighting it out there and winning. So we need to let them know that we're not going to go anywhere, and I'm never ever going to vote to take voting rights away from people, period. So the Save America Act has no traction anywhere. But in the meantime, we're going to end up in this hostage situation where just this last week we were supposed to be working Wednesday and Thursday of last week, and Johnson didn't have the votes even to pass the rule. That's like that's the blueprint of how we're going to work for the rest of the week. And because that didn't pass, he sent us all home. So in Southern Arizona specifically, I will continue to press for humane immigration policy, real accountability in our detention system. We need oversight of detention centers, an end to abuses and family separation, and a pathway to citizenship that recognizes contributions immigrants make to our communities and our economy. I am the proud granddaughter of a bracero, a hardworking Mexican immigrant who came to this country for opportunity and a better life. And I'm the daughter of a member of Congress. That happened because of incredibly hard work, public education, and where opportunity meets determination. And so that is something that is part of my history. It's part of a lot of our history. Many of us, unless you are native to this land, of native peoples, otherwise, we're all immigrants and can trace that back. So this attack on scapegoating on our immigrant communities has to end. And we also, environmental justice will be a central part of the work that we do out of our office. Communities like ours know that clean air, safe drinking water, protection from toxic contamination are not abstract issues. These are public health issues. My mom and dad both grew up in the Sunnyside Plume. And, I've had my dad, my grandpa, my tia, we all have had to have hysterectomies. And two of my other aunts have all died of cancers, different cancers. My nana died of cancer, and they all grew up in that Sunnyside Plume. So we have to, this is not, my children are now have cancer in their family, and they're going to have more intense screening and more likely to die of cancers because my grandparents and parents were poisoned. So I will push for strong environmental protections, meaningful enforcement, and investments that will help communities transition to clean energy economy without leaving workers or frontline neighborhoods behind. And as data centers and artificial intelligence infrastructure expand, Congress must ensure that growth does not come at the expense of our water, energy grid, labor standards, or local communities. We need transparency, responsible requirements that these facilities contribute to, not drain from, communities where they operate. And AI has to have safeguards. There are none at this point. And every time we talk about it, we get some sort of pushback. So most importantly, I would use my position to push leadership to move legislation that is bold, practical, and grounded in what people are telling us. Protect their health care, defend their retirement, lower costs, uphold human rights, and build an economy and a democracy that works for everyone, not just the wealthiest and the most powerful.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And again, you also anticipated the second question. Our second question is, what would you do as a representative and working with House leadership to protect the 2028 election?
Protecting the 2028 election must begin now. Free, fair, and accessible elections are the foundation of our democracy, and Congress has a responsibility to make sure every eligible voter can cast a ballot and have that ballot counted. As your representative, I would work with House leadership to advance and defend federal voting right protections, including restoring the full strength of the Voting Rights Act and passing national standards that protect access to the ballot. That means safeguarding early voting, vote by mail, voter registration, accessible polling places, and the ability of election workers to do their job safely and without intimidation. I was an election worker, and the job is not glamorous, but it is critical. And one of the things we have to do is we have to protect our election administration from partisan interference, even when they are of the same majority party. I would support strong guardrails against efforts to overturn certified election results, pressure election officials like Trump did in this last election, and misuse federal power to interfere with state and local election processes. Election officials, poll workers, all volunteers, they deserve protection from threats, harassment, and political violence. And Congress must also address the flood of disinformation that undermines public trust. That includes holding social media platforms accountable for allowing election lies and foreign interference to spread, strengthening cybersecurity for election systems, and ensuring local election offices have the resources they need to communicate accurate information to voters. I will also fight against voter suppression in all forms, whether it is unnecessary barriers to registration, polling place closures, long lines, restrictive ID requirements, or efforts to make voting harder for students, seniors, tribal communities, military families, and communities of color. Protecting the 2028 election is about defending the right to vote, respecting the will of the people, and making sure our democracy is stronger than those who would undermine it. And I will work with House leadership, state, local officials, and grassroots organizations like Indivisible to make that happen. I was really proud of the work that we did together with Gabriela Casares Kelly, our Pima County recorder, in expanding and changing to voting centers, which was something that other counties have done. I believe that we have one of the strongest election processes anywhere. I mean, I get texts on where my ballot is all the time. The ballot's on the way to your mailbox. Look for it. Once I've sent it back, it lets me know that it's been picked up and where it is and what it is in the process. And you can check it the whole time. That model is something that we should share and should be duplicated and continue to improve upon it. So it should not be the responsibility solely of local communities to be able to do that. I mean, I had recorders from throughout Arizona talking to me about the struggles that they have to be able to implement basic safeguards, protecting the voting machines because they just don't have the support from their counties to do that. And that's something that I believe is a responsibility of the federal government as well. And we'll work to do that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I see we have some questions in the chat. Ken, would you like to tee those up?
Um, I'm happy to read the questions, or I see a question from Don Gates. Don, do you want to share your question? If not, I will read it. Okay. Here's Don's question. As part of a hope for House majority next year, how much do you see your job as formulating the plan and the platform for what we hope to be a 2029 trifecta, a Democratic version of Project 2029, if you will?
Yeah, I think that it's critically important. And one of the things that I keep talking to people about is when they talk about the national attacks on, polling places. And when we talk about the attacks on our immigrant community, when we talk about the dismantling of public education and the chronic underfunding, Arizona is like the petri dish for where these horrible ideas start. And so I feel like we are best prepared to be able to address how we've tried to overcome them and how we can prevent them when we see it coming at us. As part of the newest, I mean, I've been there, 8 months, and part of the newer members of Congress that are coming in, we're really fired up to continue to build upon the promises that we made when we got elected and remind members of Congress that have been here a long time that say, well, there's a cadence to the work that we do here in Congress. Well, respectfully, I was here when I saw the cadence of the GOP ram through that big, horrible bill. So we can do the same, and we need to. We need to push forward. And one of the things that I think that ideally, I would love everything to be perfect, right? But even with that bipartisan housing bill, I would love to see it stronger. But ultimately, it's going to help some people. And so we have to start from there and continue to push an agenda that really prioritizes people that are struggling. Because what I don't want is I don't want us to get the House, possibly the Senate, and lose the White House because of our inaction or inability to work together. So we have to do it. And we have to, people keep talking about the Democratic Party being a big tent. And I believe that. And I'm a proud Democrat. But I also want our Democratic Party to stay out of primaries when they are competitive primaries. And, you might have one person that's more moderate, one person that's more progressive. What we're seeing across the country is the best person for the job and the person that best represents that community is the one that is going to win. And unless it is someone that is a Democrat in name only, then I would encourage the D trip to get involved. But otherwise, they've stayed out of races in primaries, and I'd like to continue to see them do that. And unfortunately, in this cycle, they've been involved in some primaries where I am supporting the candidate that the D trip is not supporting. And that's been incredibly frustrating. And all of those candidates won. So, or are looking really good to win. The more progressive candidates are the ones that are speaking to what the people want to hear. And my hope is that my voice, added with others, are going to continue to remind leadership that this is where we are, that nobody wants moderate right now. Nobody wants people to just go along to get along. That's not going to get it done. And we will lose the White House if we do that.
Right. So I'll ask one more question for you. And that question is, you were speaking about progressives and moderates and so forth and so on. What are you, I know, there's been a lot of news reporting about the progressive candidates who just won primaries in New York and like that. What have you been observing about your own freshman class in terms of the kinds of diversity of opinion and perspectives of the folks that you've already met in your 8 months? And how do you see that going forward with next year's class?
I think what we have to appreciate is that not every district is like mine, and not every district is like New York, and not every district is like Colorado or California, and that we have to remember that my hope is that the people that are being elected by that electorate, the 800,000 people in that community, see this individual as the one that best speaks for them. And I don't want my ideas to be dismissed, just like I won't dismiss someone else's when we disagree. I think that we have to be able to argue and advocate for our points and continue to push. That's something that I will not stop doing. But we have to come to some agreement where we acknowledge the fact that if we survey the vast majority of people, regardless of where they consider themselves on the spectrum of whether progressive, moderate, socialist, whatever it is, what people want is a government that works for them. They want to be able to retire with dignity. They want to be able to send their kids to school. They want to be able to drink water and put some roots down of vegetables and fruit in their neighborhood and not worry about contamination. So I think that to me is so important. And what we have to do is start to reform the election so we don't have this kind of influence of money. It is shocking the millions of dollars that are being spent by really, I mean, APAC is one, a lot of corporate influence, um, to try to suppress people from voting. It's scary. And that's not what I got into this for. It's not what, sorry, my alarms are going off. It's not what I hope any of us wanted to do. And one of the things that I keep saying is I think people spend too much time in DC. And I don't mean length of service because, my dad was there 22 years, and had he not gotten sick, he would be there. And this community would continue to want him there. Um, but it's because people stay in DC and you start to think that that pin means something. People are always falling over themselves. Oh, excuse me, Congresswoman or whoever. And you're like, that's not real life. Real life is, you pump your own gas. Your kids are like, my daughter, literally, I will walk out of the house and she's like, are you wearing that, Mom? I'm like, I thought I was cute today. That balance is for my sanity is critically important. Being connected to this community is something that as soon as I get off the plane in Tucson, I'm like, there's a relief there. And people need to remember that that is where you go to work and caucus with people. And once everyone goes home, you need to go back home so people know that you are listening firsthand to the stories and the impacts of what is happening and how our government is hurting people every single day. So that I think is something that literally, as soon as votes are done, I am on a plane back home and will continue to do that because it is my touchstone. Southern Arizona is where I need to be anytime that I'm not literally in active legislation in DC.
Okay. So, Margaret, I think we've come to time. I think Adelita did an amazing job.
Thanks. I want to thank you all for what you're doing and encourage you to please come out and support. We have primary candidates that really need your help. Stephanie Stahl-Hamilton, Betty Villegas, and then obviously we are all going to help Joanna Mendoza because she's done an amazing job. I'm really looking forward to her speaking to you all because she needs your help too. We all do. And if you can't go door to door, you can call people to come and volunteer for our campaigns. You can have, groups come together, schedule town halls. I mean, those kind of things are so important. Talk to your friends and neighbors. They can't sit this primary out, and we're going to continue to work on that voting muscle and get them primed for like every election. You vote because the next time it is literally fighting for our democracy to get the House majority. And I know Joanna's going to be a wonderful ally in that. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Grijalva, for joining us. And let's all thank the Congresswoman. I put her House webpage in the chat, and also her reelection campaign website address in the chat. And thank you again so much for joining us and talking to us. And
thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So